Okay, so where were we on our Kundalini process? We were at stirrings and arousals, where Kundalini has either not uncoiled, still resting in the root chakra, or she has uncoiled and removed her face. She's wrapped around and now released in or released in the root chakra, but her face has removed from the cap, and that would be called a Kundalini arousal. She's released within the root chakra, let's just say uncoiled and being stimulated. And I also got that there are some discrepancies in the books that I have read that say a Kundalini arousal is when the cap is not broken. But I did get through my own investigation that a Kundalini arousal can have the cap that is broken. And what's above the cap of this root chakra, where Kundalini wants to go through, and remember I said that the cap is like a dimensional or density door. She has to have enough force, pressure, and heat to break through that dimensional cap. And then right above the cap is a whirlwind. And the whirlwind is what I got is like a vacuum type energy. And I think it's upward moving vacuum or like a suction, because we need force, right, to get Kundalini to break the cap of that dimensional wall and to be able to direct her, hopefully up to the Shushumna, the most desirable Shakti channel, the central channel. But I got in a Kundalini arousal that she can have the cap broken and also be resting just below or experiencing a bit of that whirlwind. But due to pranic vitality, she doesn't have enough oomph to get through that whirlwind. So what I want to say that everything about the quality of Kundalini has to do with the health and the vitality of the 5 major vayus of the pranic body. And you can look that up yourself. I will do a video on the 5 major vayus. We can call them the 5 major pranic bodies. Everything depends on their health and well-being, and you working with them intentionally, or at least having a conscious awareness of them. Everything has shifted for me since I learned about Swara Yoga, which is it's called brain breathing, but it's utilizing these vayus to affect the health and vitality of the different sections of your bodies and where Kundalini is. Anyway, so where was I? So now we're entering in or hoping that Kundalini is going to pass through this whirlwind. And I actually have some visuals for you. Let's see, let's share screen. And I have a viewer drawing that I want to share, and also a diagram from the Kundalini Vidya book. I'm hoping that you could see both of these lovely images. And this beautiful, darling, sweet painting was done by Eve, my friend Eve, and she was our very first interviewee. So if you haven't watched her interview, I highly recommend it. Anyway, she drew this, and here we have the root chakra down here. And I love how she put the little swirls representing the root chakra, because I think it was C.W. Ledbetter who wrote Theosophical Society ages ago, who when intuitively checked in and drew images of the chakras, that they all had like this weaving type quality to them. And whether you meant that or not, Eve, I love these swirls because they represent kind of a weaving type texture to the chakras. Okay, so here, little Miss Kundalini herself, Kundalini Shakti, is wrapped around the invisible Mirudanda, the etheric spine, and she's resting in the Kunda bowl. I love it. And her little face, we'll just say we'll say there's a cap underneath here. Her little face is looking upwards towards Shiva, which is the sun. Kundalini Shakti, or Shakti, is represented by the moon. Shiva is the sun, and she's looking up. Her face is reaching forward, but she's blocking the entrance to the cap. Her little face is at the cap. And in a Kundalini stirring, she is shaken but not uncoiled, and a Kundalini arousal, then this little lady is relaxed out in a horizontal fashion, dancing around into the root chakra, giving us all kinds of pleasurable feeling and maybe not so pleasurable, I don't know. But her little face is no longer looking upwards, or potentially in a Kundalini arousal, she could have somehow pierced the little dimensional cap there, but now she's entering into, or the next step of this Kundalini process would be the whirlwind. So now, anyway, thank you, Eve, for your beautiful, darling. I love this little painting. Now we're going to look at the other diagram. I'm going to cover you up, a little beautiful painting. So now you can see more representative of what I've been talking about. In the center, we have Kundalini, the coiled Shakti, Kundalini Shakti, coiled up around the Mirudanda. She is resting within this little geometric form within the bigger root chakra, the square. And what we hope would happen is, with proper intention, because remember, this is a participatory universe, that our conscious attention and conscious yearning matters. God, I just lost my train of thought. I hate it when that happens. Anyway, and pranic vitality and pressure and heat are appropriate. Then we hope that Kundalini would uncoil, find her way piercing this cap, entering into the whirlwind above it, gathering enough the proper pressure and force in order to make her way through the most desirable Shakti Nadi, which is the Sushumna. These words are easier said, not said by someone else, not me, which is the outermost layer of this set of Shakti Nadis. Now, if the appropriate pressure, heat, force, the vitalities of the Vayus are not appropriate, then she will not enter in. I'm not sure if she has to pass through this whirlwind completely to get to any other of the nadis, or if she doesn't have enough force to get through the whirlwind, then she can take the two, possibly three other routes called deflected risings. She doesn't have enough oomph to get through the whirlwind, to get to the central channel, the best and most desirable route for Kundalini, and she is deflected. I don't know if the deflection happens prior to or after going through the whirlwind. Doesn't matter. But the two most common deflected risings would be the route of Saraswati. I believe that is the right-hand route. I could be wrong. I think that's left-hand. I can't remember. Or we do the Vajra Nadi, which actually happens to be one of the four routes within the central channel, but not the central channel. So it is a deflected rising. And these two most common deflected risings are called cul-de-sac risings. They have no end route. It's a cul-de-sac. There's an ending. They can't get to their pinnacle point of Bindu. It's blocked off. They have to come back and find their way, hopefully through a process of finding their way back to the central channel. Anyway, these deflected risings can absolutely mimic. They get great what they do is they can rise up and they can hit the brain centers. You get all kinds of talents, charisma. You get glimpses of the truth, and yet they it's like, how do they describe it in the book? Like being on top of the mountain and looking at the other mountain, and you're having the same experiences, but you're not there yet. You're on the wrong mountain looking at the same mountain. Anyway, I don't know if I explained that correctly. Anyway, what do I want to say about this whole image here? Oh, yeah. What happens, the importance of going through the whirlwind, and I may not be 100% correct on this, but I'm pretty darn close, is that when she makes it through the whirlwind, it activates the locks of the root chakra. Now, let me back up. A rising is when Kundalini rises out of the root chakra. Now she has been freed from the root chakra prison. So that's what we call an actual rising. She has risen out of the root chakra and is now looking for another base camp. Okay. Now this base camp can be in one of the 2 deflected bases, where she'll find another base, or in the 4 other central channel nadis. Now, what am I forgetting to say? This is quite difficult. So I do want to mention, you see on this diagram, there is a Lakshmi nadi, and this is also a deflected rising, but it's so rare. Believe me, none of you have it. It's extremely rare, and it's called, I don't know that much about it, but it's called the fiery one. But this is the nadi that can result in, what do they call it? Self-combustion, where you can set yourself on fire. But it's also a very magical nadi that very, very, very advanced yogis can use either for themselves. I guess it would be for themselves. You can bring Shakti down that nadi to reanimate life. I don't know if it's your own life or someone else's life. Yeah, I would suspect it would be in someone else's life. Anyway, I don't know. This is a very mystical nadi, and it's so rare. This is why they say there are 2 deflected risings, because those are the most common, but there are actually 3. The Lakshmi nadi is so rare, but is responsible for the cases of self-combustion, because we could have shock and trauma that, remember, causes an unruly release and rising of Kundalini Shakti, and she can go into this nadi. Okay, so where was I? So if she makes it through this whirlwind, the whirlwind, I think with the correct pressure and correct pressure and heat, and the vayus are doing their thing, then it creates a lock on the root chakra. And once again, I may not be 100% correct. And what I mean by a lock is the upward rising of these 4 outward petals of the base chakra. I think that's what they mean, lock. It's not very clear in the books. And the petals move upwards and create a lock. So instead of lying flat like an opened Amazon box or cardboard box, then you've lifted up the sides, okay? And that creates a lock. I don't know what the lock means. Does that mean that now Kundalini is not going to fall back down? Perhaps. But it does not mean she cannot go back down to the root chakra in order to do work. But she's no longer resting there as her base camp. Now, the petals of the chakras, these 4 petals, they actually indicate something in our physical body, and they represent pairs of nerve pairs or nerve bundles. And the root chakra has 4 to represent 2 pairs of nerve pairings that relate L2, L4, and L5 in our lower back. So there you go. I think I'm going to stop share. And what else did I want to say? So let me look at my notes. So if pranic vitality is clear and strong, and there has been sufficient mental, emotional focus and intention, Kundalini can break through the cap and enter into the whirlwind. She can enter central channel, best case scenario. If conditions, are insufficient, she goes into the two most common deflected routes. These are Vajra and Saraswati. These are Shakti nadis, and while they are close to the Ida and Pingala nadis, those are pranic nadis. So Shakti does not travel up through Ida and Pingala. I think that's a common mistake. If she doesn't find, let's see, unstable risings are when, unstable risings are when she cannot find her way out of the whirlwind and can't find stability in any of those routes. And so she keeps falling back down. So that's an unstable rising. I think that she can, through some breath work, she can rise up and have experience, but she keeps falling back down into the root chakra because she hasn't made it through the whirlwind, I think, which would suck up the petals of the base chakra to create that lock where she can't fall back down in there as her base camp. So an unstable rising is she can go up, but she keeps falling back down into the root chakra as her base camp. Now, all of the different types of, you can have stirrings, arousals, unstable risings, and a rising in whatever route she decides to take, any of the 6 most common routes. All of these produce very similar experiences with some subtle differences. And what I've discovered is that the way you feel and the things that are happening in your body are a direct reflection of where and how Kundalini is. If you're feeling shaken but not risen, then most likely it's a stirring. Do you know what I mean? Like if you feel that jerky feeling, but you don't have any like deep God longings or anything like that, then she's probably just being stirred. So, and if you feel like you're like in the whirlwind, and that's another thing I wanted to say about the base chakra and that whirlwind. If I were to sit here and relax, see, it's creating that spin. So I don't know if it's actually the base chakra creating that spin, or the whirlwind, or the release of Kundalini through that whirlwind. That whirlwind is kind of, I don't know, but I think that's where our little movement comes from. I could be wrong. It doesn't matter. Everything in us is spinning. But yeah, so if you're feeling unsettled up and down, maybe Kundalini is up and down. But here's the rub. With all of these experiences, a person with no Kundalini process whatsoever, no stirring whatsoever, can experience the exact same thing based on the stimulation of the pranic bodies. You can have the same experience of somebody with a Kundalini rising, and you have no rising or no stirring and no release or no So it's really tough to self-diagnose. It takes real discernment and real awareness, and dare I say, meditation on your part to really get in touch with what is going on in your subtle bodies. And it is said that until you've had an actual rising where she has left the root chakra, you are unable to even feel the subtle bodies. So I would say that that's a real indication of some kind of rising at minimal, an arousal. If you can actually palpate the vayus and your subtle body, if you can feel what's going on, then yeah, you've most likely had some kind of rising. Anyway, so it's hard to self-diagnose because you can have these experiences and not have any kind of Kundalini activity. But there are some markers, and of course, I will share those markers in another video. So I've probably made this far too long, but can't help it sometimes. Okay, all for now. Bye.